GIMPA, working with our PhD program, bringing out new PhDs. So I spend most of my time, not just the grading, by guiding them to do their dissertations. The teaching is limited in writing thesis. It took one professor in South Carolina who sat me down and said, yeah, doing a PhD is like driving a car. Once you learn the mechanics, then you are able to do it successfully. So I'm imparting that knowledge to the PhD students and some programs, and I just love it. I don't know when I'm going to retire. As long as I can climb the stairs to come to my office, I think I'm still fit to teach and I can make a contribution. And these days when I go out on speaking engagements, I tell people, the moment you stop learning and contributing, then you become irrelevant. And I want to be relevant. Contribute not just to GIMPA, but to Ghana and a lot of other countries where I can.
Okay. So what legacy are you leaving for your grandchildren? Are you writing any novels or something that they will read about Grandpa?
I have a book to write. I haven't started. I recall I went to St. John's. I retired fully. One of the things I want to do is to go back to school and pass my physics exam, the O-level exam, where I flunked so badly. I just want to teach them.
Science to art. You want to go back?
I want to train, for them to know that, if they work hard, they will succeed. And they cannot ride on the success of their father, grandfather, and then their uncles and so forth. They have to work hard. And that in all that you do, you have to have a touch of humility, because you are always riding on the shoulders of others. And you have to be very grateful for that and leave a legacy that others can emulate. I always cite what I call a life of significance. It's not about how much money that you make or you leave behind. It's about the impact that you've made. It could be nationwide, it could be in small areas, but you need
and public administration. Stay tuned in for other programs on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. Take care and see you next week. Bye.
The Association of African Universities, AAU, is an international non-governmental organization set up by universities in Africa to promote cooperation among themselves and the international academic community.
Mon nom est professeur Étienne Ehouan-Ehilé. Je suis le secrétaire général de l'Association des universités africaines qui est basée à Accra, au Ghana. Je vais vous parler de la création de l'Association des universités africaines. Il faut remonter dans les années 60 pour pouvoir comprendre le processus. Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement.
I am Notumo Dlamini. I'm the Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is a network of 400 universities in Africa. The biggest value that the universities benefit from being members of the association is this big platform that allows them to collaborate, allows them to work together, allows them to teach together. Through this platform, a university in North Africa can work with a university in Southern Africa, and also those in East Africa can work with those in West Africa.
Founded November 1967 at a conference in Rabat, Morocco, by heads of African higher education institutions, the association is currently headquartered in Accra, Ghana.
My name is Maxwell Amo-Hoyt. I'm the Director of Finance of the Association of African Universities. The association sustains itself from contributions from member universities and also from other development partners. Some of our development partners include the World Bank, other governmental agencies like the Swedish International Development Agency, UK Department for International Development, and other partners. We also receive a lot of support from other governments, especially the government of Ghana. Other partners include the African Union, which is more or less the parent organization of the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities hosts the Secretariat for the African Union's Continental Education Strategy. And by so doing, we provide coordinating roles for the African Union in helping members achieve their targets.
Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement. Et rappelons-nous que les années 60, la décade 60, a été une décade où la plupart des pays africains ont obtenu leur indépendance ou ont, disons, pris les dispositions pour être indépendants. C'était donc aussi l'année de développement, dans la mesure où tous ces pays indépendants devaient se retrouver de temps en temps pour parler de comment mettre ensemble leurs problèmes et trouver une solution commune à leurs problèmes. Et dans ce contexte-là, l'éducation était une priorité pour eux, surtout l'éducation universitaire. Et sur ce plan-là, les universités aussi se sont organisées grâce à l'UNESCO, qui a parrainé plusieurs réunions depuis Madagascar jusqu'au Maroc.
My name is Jonathan Umba. I'm the Director of Research and Academic Planning. The programs and projects that we run at AAU are consistent with our strategic plan, and they are implemented for our higher education stakeholders, namely the higher education institutions in Africa. These programs are implemented in such a way that our stakeholders will get the benefit of membership of our association. And our programs also are aligned with a number of global and international agendas on higher education, including the Continental Education Strategy for Africa and Agenda 2063. So these programs are aligned with a number of international agendas with a view to promoting higher education in Africa.
The AAU is the apex organization and principal forum for consultation, exchange of information, and cooperation among universities in Africa.
I am Professor Nkusa Mahao, Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho in the Kingdom of Lesotho in Southern Africa. There are roughly 77 universities that are affiliated with the AAU in the region. But as you might be aware, there are a lot more universities that are as yet to take the membership of the Association of African Universities. Well, universities that are not members of the AAU are missing quite a lot. First of all, let's appreciate this one point, that the AAU is a main driver from the angle of training and capacitating the human resources of the continent the agenda of the African Union 2063. So if an institution is not on board, it is missing the opportunity to leverage on the opportunities that are provided by the association in the area of training, human resource capital, training their own staff and students, the opportunities that are provided by the universalization of quality management on higher education on the continent, and many other opportunities that are provided.
Et en 1963, il y a eu une réunion à Khartoum, au Soudan, où les chefs des institutions d'enseignement supérieur ont décidé de créer l'Association des universités africaines. Finalement, la création va se faire à une conférence qui s'est tenue à Rabat au Maroc, et la création de l'Association des universités africaines a eu lieu le 12 novembre 1967.
I'm Prof. Hassan Kafi, AAU Governing Board member, representing for East African region. Also, I am the president of Plasma University, Mogadishu, Somalia. We really like to give a call for universities in Africa, especially in East Africa, those which are not members still in the Association of African Universities. We are calling them because we feel the organization is ours. It represents the voice of higher education in Africa being seen all over the world.
I'm here with the Association of African Universities Television, AUTV. I just want to say that without the media, you won't know what's going on in the world. Even with the media, you sometimes don't know what's going on in the world. So you need to tune in to the reliable sources who are really on the front lines, who can give you the information you need and give you facts, not conjecture, give you real news, not fake news. And this is the place to find it, AUTV.
The voice of higher education in Africa.
Supporting the development of the African higher education institutional quality culture is our goal. We have realized is, for example, we have about 19 francophone countries in Africa, and they've come up to form what is called CAMES. And in CAMES, they are able to have a harmonized tool for promotion, for professorship, and all. So that is what we are aiming to do at continental level, to have a continental quality assurance agency. And I've seen these CAMES professors, they say proudly CAMES professor, something like that. Now, at continental level, that is what we are also aiming to do at during the upper phase 2, and we hope that by the end of the process, we will have achieved that. Now, coming now to the in-depth of the African quality rating mechanism in particular, I just want to emphasize that it's a quality self-assessment, evaluation and rating tool for African higher education institutions that support continuous quality improvement and building of the quality culture. Please, ladies and gentlemen, it can only prepare you for rankings. And it is not a ranking tool. Let me emphasize again. You can have an institutional evaluation for improvement. As you improve through this evaluation using this tool, you can now be well positioned for the rankings, where you can now occupy a better space, a better position than before. But it's not a ranking tool. And when we look at this, it also helps you, like the way we are moving. We want the higher education institutions and we want the quality assurance agencies to take on board the AQRM and make it part of what they are going to use for accreditation. And in that regard, you will realize that once you also are used as an institution to do yourselves an internal assessment when it comes to the 5-year cycles of accreditation, you are always prepared and you don't have challenges at all. And this one, we give it more time. And we give you time to prepare. The experts, we have international experts coming to do site visits, and that will help you a lot to appreciate your shortcomings and also to take on board the recommendations that will be given. This tool, like I said, was developed by the African Union Commission through extensive dialogue with the African higher education community, including the Association of African Universities. Ladies and gentlemen, I know what some people think at times, that where is this coming from? We don't know about it. We have never been involved in the process. No, not always. Because of financial constraints, you may not have been involved in the process, but fellow Africans have been involved. At all levels, there are representatives who are picked to make sure that at the end of the day, whatever initiative, whatever tool that is being developed, it's a true representation of our African higher education. So feel comfortable to take on board and have this a plea for us to buy in and make use of our truly African tools and initiatives. And this was adopted by the Conference of Ministers of Education of the African Union in 2007. So how can you say your country was not involved? For our ministers to chart the discussions that they do during the African Union Commission Summit, it is those things which they request from the key stakeholders. They request the things that they will take to the African Union from institutions, from national quality assurance agencies, and from any other stakeholder, from the ministries of higher education. And so when they are representing us at continental level, we are part. And our concerns and issues are well covered. The survey again is available on that link, and it's for free. You don't need to pay anything to access it. Interested institutions can also visit the website of the African Association of African Universities. Again, you can visit the AQUA One website. If you just type in aau.org/HAQAA/ you will get to what we did in AQUA Phase 1. And again, we are making sure we will continue to load everything that we are doing during AQUA Phase 2. And when you visit these websites, you will really appreciate the level of consultancy that was done in order to make sure everybody is represented and is on board. With the AQRM, we want to ensure that the performance of higher education institutions in Africa can also be compared against a set of common agreed criteria, taking into account the local context of higher education. We want also to help higher education institutions carry out self-evaluation exercises and support the development of the quality culture and continuous improvement. we need together to pave a way for African universities to be locally relevant and globally competitive. I want to emphasize that. And now moving to the questionnaire itself, I said there are no worries because we are going to provide you with the questionnaire itself. We are also providing you with the link. Basically, I'll just do an overview to say Section 1, background information, institutions, general information, institutions profile, students profile, faculties, faculty staff, governance and management, teaching and learning, and all that until we get to internationalization. Hello. Hello. Okay, thank you. So what I want to emphasize, hello, Miss Nodumo, can you mute your microphone, please?
And I kept asking her,
thank you.
How much time do you need? She wouldn't say.
I'm almost through Nodumo because I'm left with a few slides here. So we have talked about this other aspect of the questionnaire, and I've said out of it we will get a lot, and we will need to work as teams being guided by our quality assurance. In the interest of time, I'll just move through quickly. The self-rating part, institutions are supposed to rate themselves. The Section 3 self-rating again, here you want to make sure you choose your best 3 programs or best 3 departments, and you can always use them as yardsticks and maybe benchmarking internally before you move out. There's also the rating of poor performance, insufficient, satisfactory, good performance. You rate yourselves, and when the external experts come, they will also try and help. Now, the scores are there, and based on the institutional information submitted, interviews with different groups will be done by those experts who come to do the site visit. And they will also do document analysis of the documents which you used to complete your questionnaire, as well as a score that I've showed you earlier on, and also interviews with the students. These will determine the overall scores that you are going to get. The process, like I've already touched on it, is that you complete a questionnaire and we'll give you at least a month to complete it, but you can't do it alone. You need a team, particularly people with institutional memory are very important to be part of that team. And even selecting of the best departments, it's not a one-person thing. There's a criteria that you use, which is in the questionnaire of the AQRM, and you can use that. So just to say, how do we link up the AQRM with the African Standards and Guidelines? So the African Standards and Guidelines are to be instituted and to be used by institutions. Now the AQRM is one tool that you can use to check if you are complying with the African Standards and Guidelines. And so that's one key relationship I want to explain to you. So this is a brief summary of the African Standards and Guidelines, that they've got a Part A, Part B, Part C, like I've said before, and they will look at internal quality assurance, external quality assurance, and quality assurance agencies. The slides are going to be shared. Now, in terms of supporting internal quality assurance, the Part A is the one which is most important for universities. it will guide you on the standards which you need to have. The part B will help the quality assurance agencies to come and do the assessments and the accreditation and re-accreditation. And then the part C is the one which is used to check if they are doing well. On this slide, I'm just showing you the institutions which have undergone the first batch of institutions which underwent the AQRM institutional evaluations. This is where we picked the other two institutions. I think in the next few minutes, less than 5 to 10 minutes, I'm just winding off. So you will get the slide and you will see the greater detail of it. So what are the opportunities which are there under AQUA Phase 2? During Phase 2, which I said started in 2019 to 2022, African higher education institutions will have the opportunity to apply for the full AQRM institutional evaluation. And then we are going to have a verification visit. A call is going to be launched by mid-2020. So watch out on the AQUA website and also on the AAU website. Continue to be in touch with us and we will tell you and inform you when the call is out. That would be very good if we have many countries applying, many institutions applying. Institutions will be given a 3 or 4 months period to complete, but because of COVID, we are not sure how it will happen, because sometimes people need to be in the institution to get everything that they need to complete the questionnaire. So AAU will be publishing the data on the impact of AQRM on institutional assessments, and that can help other institutions. Even when you go to the other website, which I said aau.org//AQUA, you will see the reports for the other institutions, and that can guide you. Please, for more information, you can contact me at vmakuku@aau.org. You can also use secgen@aau.org and info@aau.org. For us to quickly save you, you can copy us using all those details. And again, for the information, I've given you the AQUA website. I want to thank you all for your time and attention, and I hope this has been fruitful to you. I can now safely hand over to Ms. Nodumodlamini, and I hope for more information you can still contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Makuku, for a wonderful and elaborate presentation. I would now like to call upon Dr. Rita Makumbi to give her presentation. Because of time, I'm requesting that she doesn't spend more than 9 minutes. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Rita, you are ready to start. Thank you.
You can begin as we organize your slides. Thank you.
Warm greetings to all of you from Uganda. I've already been introduced. In the interest of time, I'll just continue. with our experience as we're undertaking the African Quality Rating Mechanism. I'll be giving you the rationale, the benefits, the way forward as part of our training for the HAQUA 2. I'm from Deje University in Uganda, and I've seen most of my colleagues here. You're most welcome, all the Ugandans and all the East Africans, and all of us all. So the exercise ran from February 2017 to June 2017, and it was coordinated by the Directorate of Quality Assurance of Deje University in conjunction with the Association of African Universities. An overview of what happens in Uganda. The approach to higher education reflects a guided approach led by the Uganda National Council of Higher Education towards self-evaluation and self-improvement for the academia in the country. Higher education institutions should abide by the Higher Education Quality Assurance Framework, which is accessible by all of us. Then higher education institutions have the freedom to further enrich the programs, focusing on their mission, vision, the strengths and niches that they have as an institution. So there is that liberty that we embed as we are working on our quality assurance activities. However, this situation can be a blessing and a bane if a strategic way forward is not developed within the institution itself. As the head of the QA department at Deje, it is critical in ensuring the implementation of the strategic way forward to ensure a competitive advantage, given that institutions are increasing in numbers on quite a faster pace than what was happening before. So how do we come in conjunction with HAQUA 1? Deje University subscribes to the AAU newsletter, and hence were able to receive the advertisement on the HAQUA initiative project. We tendered in our interest as guided by the advert. As the norm is, permission was sought and granted for 2 of the staff to attend this workshop in Accra, Ghana. And the other colleague of mine we moved with is the Dean, Faculty of Business and Management at Deje University, Dr. Mili Kwagala. I'll be telling you later on why this is very important. The workshops informed us about the processes, the timelines, and expectations from all of us. And it made things quite easier because we knew what to do. Okay. On returning back to Uganda, a meeting was scheduled with the top management committee to seek a buy-in into the idea of an institutional self-assessment. It took time, but we got positive feedback. The budgets were drawn and approved because you must have a budget as an institution to run the self-assessments. Trainings were done because they're very fundamental in institutional assessment. Remember, you're involving colleagues who are not directly involved in day-to-day quality assurance mechanisms. So we had to involve the different departments as guided by the questionnaire. We encouraged departmental-based self-evaluations with our guidance so that we get the ownership. They're able to appreciate and own whatever the results will be. The Directorate of Quality Assurance worked with faculty deans. I've already told you I moved with one of the deans. We worked with directors, for example, for research, the different heads of departments, and most critical, the top management. They needed to be in the know of whatever we were doing at every stage. 4 weeks later, data gathering from departments was undertaken, both electronically and hard copies were requested. Remember, our work as QA officers is evidence-based. So there's no we're going to come up with something, yet we do not have the right evidence to support whatever we were writing in the self-assessment report. Once this was compiled from the different units, we sent it back to AAU for validation. A month later, a team of experts was sent to the institution. The data filled in the tool was to be corroborated with the documentary evidence and observation by the experts that came in. This was made very easy because as we were working on the tool initially, we kept on collecting data. So when the experts were coming, we didn't have to scatter ourselves all over the place looking for the same data. It was quite easy because we had already done that earlier. Then I'm continuing with the actual exercise. Primarily, the verification mission dictates a visit to the institution, and they came, as I've already mentioned, to validate the contents of the questionnaire vis-a-vis what we have on ground. We had elements that included governance and management, infrastructure, finances, the teaching and learning aspects. It gave us research, publications, and innovation aspects. And most importantly, it had societal engagement. The confirmation of the information provided evidence through the data we had collected. We had different meetings with senior staff, the academic staff, the community, that is the people around Ndeje University that are benefiting from its existence. Then we had students' representatives led by the guild. We had industry. These were very instrumental to the whole picture. And these, we worked with the deans who helped us to be able to access this, because they're the ones who send these students out there for internship, school practice, and others. And in particular, when the team arrived, they had a word with the Vice Chancellor. Then they had a discussion with the full top management committee. Then they had discussions with the academic staff. Allow me to mention at this stage, the remaining stakeholders, we were not allowed to stay in. We were requested to move out. And that's what we did. We went out, and I think it allowed more freedom for them to express themselves without us being there maybe to bias the answers. And I think that is a practice that all of us should continue once we get engaged in this kind of exercises. And then there was looking for evidence in terms of inspection of facilities. The team went to the library, and in the library they actually went and also verified the e-resources. They had an expert in that particular area. They looked at the computer laboratories, they visited our lecture halls and the offices of our staff. Then they went through some of the student support services. Us being Christian-based, so the counseling is embedded in the chaplaincy. So that was something that we thought was unique to us, but we'll get to know later. They did the evaluation of the same, and then, of course, they had to look at the relevant documents. That took some good time because they kept on looking at documents as guided by the indicators. And finally, we were called in, and they were asking us questions to try to evaluate the internal quality assurance processes that we had as a university, since we are the ones that house them, or we should be the ones to answer for the university on that behalf. After that visit, the university received a draft report. This report provided a chance to clarify on the areas that were not clear from either side, because we would see comments we could not understand, and then there are areas asked them, they did not really understand. So we needed to beef up more information to clarify whatever we're coming up with. Because when the final report came back, we were accompanied from the side. And retrospectively, Deja University and back from the departments was relayed back to the AAU experts. Again, it was part of ensuring that we are on the same page, because there's no way we could answer everything, yet there are experts in those particular departments who can help us clarify better so that everyone is on the same page. The final report came back and the institution was rated as good quality, which we felt gave us a very good strategic direction for the future. Having said that, we learned a number of lessons. I'll just give you briefly what we came up with. The input of stakeholders gave a bearing for the quality assurance work we do in the university, and it was appreciated by the different departments that were involved. Allow me to mention that the presence of an equipped computer lab was a plus for us, and we're very excited that it came out very well. However, the experts mentioned the need to match with the student ratios and be done urgently. And then in order to produce more employable graduates, we will need to add more assessment methods on top of the other methods that we had in assessing our students. Especially the summative, where we only had the examinations. Then to improve the mobility of students and staff came out strongly. Then we were encouraged to create an online repository of knowledge generated within the institution, and this has been done already. And we thank this particular initiative for guiding us in that particular area. Then we were guided to utilize existing involvements that we have with external associations, for example, the RU Forum, the AAU, among others, to increase exchange opportunities for both our staff and our students, and this is ongoing. What are the benefits of this particular initiative? It acted as an eye-opener and a wake-up call on some areas that were still lagging behind in the university. For example, the implementation of a robust staff development plan. Then it further enhanced the top management and other middle-level managers to understand the advantages that accrue from a robust quality service system. The first presenter talked about improving the quality culture in the institution. And although the AQRM was not a ranking mechanism, it helped our university to strive for the best in implementing the recommendations mentioned earlier. Through this exercise, experience was gained on how to candidly carry out a self-institutional assessment. Thank you so much for listening in. I hand over to Ms. Nadumo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rita Makumbi. We now call upon Mrs. Abigail Zama Anderson. And as she set up, I'll just mention 2 or so questions that have come up from the Q&A panel. Answer, please, Kariu. She says, what efforts are the African Union Commission and AAU making in order to roll out and enforce the ASG across the continent, African standards and guidelines to the same extent that their equivalent standards, that their equivalent ESG have in Europe? I think this is one of the efforts that we are doing, by hosting this webinar, and also under the HAQUA Phase 2 project. It's one of the key activities that we want to be engaged in. Then there was also a comment from Dr. Beatrice Njenga, who said that she agrees that involving the regional universities councils will lead to great improvement, and she hopes that it will help in advocating for internal quality assurance in our universities. Kwesi, can you set up Mrs. Abigail Zama Anderson? I hope her slides are ready.
Yes, everything is set.
Okay, you are most welcome, Abigail. I'll give you 7 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nodumo, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a privilege to be here to share our experience with all of you.
Abigail, we can hardly hear you. I don't know if the audience can hear you. I am requesting if you could speak closer to your microphone, please. Thank you.
Yes, I am. Is it better?
It's not very good, so try and speak up. Yes, thank you. As she organizes her sound, there was also a question from Professor Atta Diallo Hortense, and the question was, what strategies have been or are being put in place to get more institutions involved, especially Francophone and Lusophone institutions? And I'll request Dr. Makuku and the team to take note of this question and be able to respond to it. Can we try again, Abigail?
Yes. Is it better now?
Yes, do try to speak up. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So welcome, everyone. And I'm here to share with you the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology experience with the AQRM. The AQRM. And so with this outline, well, let me just state that, as you may see, I am Abigail Zama Anderson, and an assistant registrar with the Quality Assurance and Planning Unit of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And in this outline, I'll go through the introduction, the process we went through, methodology, benefits we had, the challenges we faced, and then the way forward. And with the introduction, as Dr. Makuku has already explained, the HAQUA initiative is under the AAU, and KNUST was chosen to undertake this AQRM in 2017. The process actually started in April 2017, and the team visited in June. And so the AQRM is not a ranking, it's just a benchmark to help institutions improve in their quality. And it's actually a self-rating mechanism. And so it helps you to self-evaluate yourself without thinking of ranking or any other thing. And so it's a self-assessment instrument for institutions. And the process we went through was, the institution had to complete the AQRM form, which was online. We had to complete that form. And then the committee that was set up, we decided to go for 3 programs, and then out of it, select the best one, to put our best foot forward. And we were to submit an institutional level development to the team, and then we were to prepare and receive the experts from AAU to visit the institution. So that was the process. And the methodology that we used was that the university management set up a committee. It was quite a large committee, about 15 or more members, and that was because information or data were to be collected from all sections of the university. And so membership of the committee included representatives from the 6 colleges that we had, and then we had the Institute of Distance Learning. There was a rep from there, and other relevant directorates and units, which included the library, the registrar's offices, finance, and then the physical development office. So all these members made up the committee. And let me mention this, that prior to this AQRM, KNUST had undergone a self-evaluation exercise with the National Accreditation Board of Ghana. And so with the AQRM, there were some of the information that was required that we had already gathered. This proved very useful for the committee. For instance, information on governance and then management and other teaching and learning issues, we already gathered some of the data. And so it proved useful in completing our online or our questionnaire. We used the representatives to obtain data from all the various units. And then the AQRM form was completed and submitted. And the committee made the necessary preparation to receive the team. And they visited KNUST in June 2017. And it was a successful visit. These were the 3-member team that visited Mr. Jonathan Mba, Professor Hendrik Jensen, and then Professor Olivemiro Jegede. They visited the institution as experts from AAU. And benefits of participating in the AQRM. Your last mentioned is a self-assessment tool. And so we went through the whole process, and the ratings were from poor, insufficient, satisfactory, good, and then excellent. And when we evaluated ourselves, the institution rated itself as excellent. But then when the AQRM team came, the experts came and went through the process, they rated KNUST as good. And they rated KNUST as good and not as excellent as we rated ourselves. And the visit revealed certain perceived challenges that we had with this institution. That the reluctance of staff to provide data, that is relevant data in the required format. The members of the committee had a bit of challenge gathering all those data that was needed. And we also, so this process confirmed that perception that was there, that it was difficult to gather some data from various sections of the university. And when the team also visited, we had recommendations from them that the university took very good note of. And some included the huge capacity that we had in areas like ICT, that is by UITS, which is the University Information Technology System. And then our distance learning services in our e-learning center, there was huge capacity there, both in the software and then the infrastructure. And so the recommendation was for the university to look for ways to utilize this infrastructure or this capacity to its benefits. So these were some of the benefits we got from the AQRM. And the main challenge we had, as already mentioned, was data acquisition. The process confirmed that so much to us, that it was difficult, and so the measures has to be put in place so that whenever data is needed, it will be easier to receive them and in the format that is required. The way forward, from our point of view, we are working vigorously on the recommendations that the experts made to us. And for instance, currently we see that with the pandemic, the distance learning platform and then the e-learning center and the information and technology system are all doing very well because the university is utilizing it to the full to continue to provide education to our stakeholders, which is the students. Very grateful for the opportunity because not only did it open up or reveal certain perceptions or confirm certain perceptions that are already there, But then we also had recommendations from the experts, and the university is working towards it, working those recommendations, and it's going well. So that is the way forward for us. And I encourage other institutions who haven't undergone this AQRM to do it, and they will benefit immensely. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Abigail. I would now like to introduce Elizabeth Colucci. She will make a few remarks before we get into our Q&A. She will make a few remarks. Elizabeth Colucci is currently a higher education consultant that specializes in strategic partnership and development cooperation, and she is serving as the Director of Projects for the Observatory of Relations between the European Union and Latin America, in short, OBRIL, Global Observatory, which is based in Barcelona. This is a membership organization that serves as a platform between the European Union, Latin America, and different regions of the world. Notably, they focus in higher education and the research sector. She has also supported the transition of this organization towards its current global mandate. And Elizabeth also coordinates a number of EU-supported cooperation projects between Europe, Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And these projects are on topics ranging from research management to local development to quality assurance and accreditation. Elizabeth is currently coordinating this HAQUA Phase 2 project, which is harmonization of African quality assurance and accreditation. Elizabeth has also taught and provided lectures and published in topics related to higher education, internationalization, mobility, joint degrees, teaching and learning, etc. Elizabeth, we welcome you to make your presentation. Thank you, or your brief remarks. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can.
Okay, excellent, good. So
Please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Nujabo.
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. No, very briefly, on behalf of the team that is implementing the HAQUA 2 initiative, which you have just learned about, Dr. Makuku has, and how we've come to where we are today with HAQUA 2. This webinar is the first of a series. We stress that. We will be doing webinars on punctual issues related to various aspects of the HAQUA 2 initiative, but also to other aspects of the general Pan-African Quality Assurance and Accreditation Framework, of which the AQRM, which you have just learned about, is a part. There are other important parts of this framework. So the AQRM is a piece of a bigger puzzle, and we hope to continue to elaborate and to present and share that with you throughout the course of these webinars, and also to hear from colleagues and practitioners and policymakers on the ground using these tools and instruments, like we've just heard from Dr. Makumbe and Ms. Abigail Anderson. And I thank them both for their presentations and for all the time and effort that they put in to receiving a verification visit for the AQRM, which is not an easy task and not a light task. It requires mobilizing many people in the university, in some instances fighting against some resistance. But I think their presentations demonstrate how useful this instrument can be in generating a better understanding about quality and quality culture and the importance of data in your own universities. So just a brief word from me, from the HAQUA implementing team, my organization, the OBRIAL Global Observatory, which has been introduced previously. We're delighted to be coordinating this initiative. We're delighted that HAQUA 2 is taking off. And we look forward to seeing you in future webinars and hopefully in future events when we all manage to travel again, which we hope will be in the near future. We shall see. But in the meantime, we stay connected and we offer you this opportunity. And I would like to stress again that this webinar will be repeated in the end of May, the 28th of May, in French, so that we can offer a more inclusive agenda and offer as well the same information to our Francophone colleagues. So thank you very much. Thanks to AAU. Thank you to Ndomo for her excellent sharing and to Violet for her excellent presentation and to the other speakers. I hope we have time to answer a few of the questions that have come into the chat. I know we don't have much, but maybe we could answer a few. So thank you very much, and I turn it back to you, Ndomo.
Thank you very, very much, Elizabeth. We appreciate you. I will share these questions. The question that came from Professor Hortense Atta Diallo will be answered by Dr. Makuku. What strategies are we putting in place to involve Francophone and Lusophone? And then I'll also ask Professor Jonathan Mba from AAU to assist and respond to a question which has been asked by Dr. Petolo Modieka, who is from Botswana International University of Science and Technology. The question is related to the Southern African region and the fact that the Southern African Quality Assurance Network seems not to be strong enough. So the question is, how can you assist the Southern African region? There is also a question on whether as AAU we are involving private universities in the quality assurance process, and I will ask Dr. Violet Makuku to take that question. The last question is from Azila, and the question is, Professor Mba, if you could make comments on what strategies are in place for private universities to implement this laudable policy on quality assurance, given that implementation would cost quite a lot for these private institutions. So it's a question around private universities and the cost issues associated with the implementation. So I would like Dr. Makuku to come in and respond to the questions that I've assigned to her, after which Professor Mba will also respond. Thank you. Kwesi, can you assist Dr. Makuku?
Online as a presenter.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. Makuku. Yeah, she's coming now.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Makuku, are you coming on? Okay, thank you. But I think the sound is not coming out. If you could unmute yourself.
So can you switch on your microphone? Please switch on your microphone.
Okay, Professor Mba, are you ready? Kwesi, can we check on Professor Mba and
yes, I've made Professor Mba a presenter now, so he can also equally switch on his microphone and make his submission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Professor Mba, are you on?
Hello?
Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I would like to add my voice in congratulating Dr. Makuku for an excellent presentation and for the two other presenters for their interventions. We at AAU support all the regional bodies, including Southern African Quality Assurance Network, SAQUAN, and other regional organizations, and we involve them as far as possible in our activities, our programs, and whatever things we are doing for the benefit of African higher education. So the Southern African region is not left out at all. We involve them in everything we do. And if you look at one of the slides that Dr. Makuku shot for us, the distribution of the participants, the 15 universities that participated in the AQRM evaluation exercise. There were some from Southern Africa. So the Southern African region is not left out. As a matter of fact, even though the number was small, 15, we ensure that all the 5 geographic regions of Africa and the 4 main linguistic groupings were involved in the exercise. And that is what we are going to do in the Hackathon exercise of the AQRM. We are going to ensure that Southern African region, as well as the other regions, are represented in the AQRM exercise. Concerning the private universities, just like I mentioned, the AQRM is for all higher education institutions. It's a tool for continuous self-improvement, and we involve all higher education institutions in Africa, both private and public, in the exercise. And so universities may not have the funds, and that is why funding from European Union Commission to visit a maximum of 150 during this Haka Phase 2 project. So the private universities are involved, and in the selection of the 150 universities that will participate in the AQRM exercise, private universities will be represented as well as the public ones. So we involve the private as well as the public universities in the AAU interventions. And so they should rest assured that they are not forgotten. And just to add to this, every year we hold an international conference on private university, the contribution of private universities to Africa's developmental efforts. We hold an annual conference on private universities. So private universities are never forgotten in our scheme of things. We know the importance of private provision of educational delivery, and we do our best to support them in everything we do. They complement the efforts of the public ones, and therefore they are partners in progress. So we involve private universities as well as the public ones in AAU's interventions. I don't know whether I've answered the 2 questions.
I think you've answered it well, Prof. Thank you so much. I'm checking whether Dr. Makuku is now able to to speak. Kwesi, she seems to say her sound is disabled and she doesn't have the mic thing next to her. I don't know whether you can assist. Okay. And then there was another question, the last question, which came from Dr. Jeffrey Mukora, and he says that in the AQRM, African Quality Rating Mechanism, quality decision on each reference point and final quality decision is really made based on mathematical calculations and not through consensus. So he's asking, what is our take on this? Dr. Makuku, are you able now to respond?
I'm going to make Schneider's machine the presenter so Dr. Makuku can present from Schneider's laptop. So give us a minute, please.
Okay. And then I also, I don't think I have other questions, but I would ask Prof. Mba to respond to the question from Dr. Jeffrey Mukora. Professor Mba, did you get the question?
Yes, I did. Can I answer?
Yes, please, if you could respond to it. We just have 2 minutes left, so if you could be brief.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Jeffrey, what happened is that the AQRM is not a ranking instrument. It's a rating one, and it is based on a set of agreed criteria. These criteria were discussed among various stakeholders, and they were approved at the highest political level. That these are the criteria we are going to use to be able to rate ourselves, whether we are doing well or we are not doing well. And so for us to be able to say that we are doing well or not doing well, there should be a mathematical aspect to it. And that is why we put the numbers there. So rate from 0 to 4. And so it's not actually, you may call it arithmetic, because it's simply addition and averaging that is being done. We sum up the values and then take the average, and then see whether the average conforms to a particular measure within that scale. So there must be a way of trying to quantify what we are going to do. And that is why we're coming. So there is this assessment of how you have fared in terms of your justice. And so that is why the arithmetic or the mathematical calculation he mentioned comes into play.
Thank you, Prof. Mba. Dr. Makuku, are you ready?
With you is what Azila is asking. He says people are worried about private universities, and just like Prof. Mba has rightly pointed, every university is part, but I see their issue is concerning financial obligations, and we are saying now in Aqua 2 we have about plus 100 site visits of the AQRM, and so they can apply and submit their data, and they can be selected just like everybody else. And the second one is strategies to get more people from Prof. Atta Diallo. We are going to work with social media. We will work with AAU TV. We will work with ambassadors, and we will work with the regional and national quality assurance agencies. We want institutions to also help us share information. And lastly, on Prof. Jeff Mkora, I want to say even the numerical values, they just don't come. We also make sure after the interviews, after the documents and all, we are putting together to come up with a numerical value, either low or high, and it's almost a true reflection because there's triangulation of what an institution claims to have. So in most cases, we are okay. Either the institution has scored itself lowly and we score them higher, or they've scored them highly and we reduce slightly depending on the triangulation that has been done. Thank you, Nodu.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Makuku. Congratulations for an excellent presentation. It was just amazing. And also thank you to Dr. Rita Makumbi. Thank you also to Abigail Anderson. I would also like to thank Professor Etienne Hile, Miss Deidre Lennon, Elizabeth Kolushi. Thank you also to our wonderful participants. We look forward to seeing you in the next webinars that we will organize as the AAU. Of course, I will not forget Mr. Kwesi Sam, Irene Duffy, Schneider, because they work in the background to ensure that we have good webinars. Have a lovely afternoon or evening wherever you are. Thank you.
Africa. You're live on a brand new edition of Ladies Digest, where issues in the world of women are discussed. And I'm your host, Joan Ikuya Iyoha, and this show is proudly brought to you by AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. In our previous episode, we started our discussion on uterine fibroids, and we introduced uterine fibroids, we talked about the causes, and we talked about the symptoms. So on this episode, we'll be looking at the forms of treatment. Remember to join the conversation. Drop your comments, drop your questions on our social media pages, Association of African Universities on our Facebook and YouTube pages, and our Instagram handle at Ladies Digest. Do stick with us. We'll be right back. Dr. Udell Tego is a general gynecologist and minimally invasive gynecologic surgeon. She is married with 4 children. She is very passionate about delivering quality, compassionate care to women. And her hobbies are running and reading.
You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You've been searching for a new kind of university that matches your ambition. Our world-class education is renowned, but there is more to us. Meet the university in Ghana that is transforming Africa. One that is nurturing a new generation of ethical, entrepreneurial leaders. One that offers scholarships thanks to the Mastercard Foundation, so that you can be part of our community of students who stand for integrity, discipline, and excellence. There is only one such university, only one, where 100% of graduates receive job offers or graduate school admissions. You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You are Africa's future, and we are Ashesi University College. Together, we can begin to create a new Africa.
Welcome back. As I said before the timeout, we're discussing uterine fibroids part 2. And this episode is dedicated to its treatment. And as usual, we have in our midst our beautiful gynecologist, our regular gynecologist, and we are in an office again to discuss this uterine fibroid part 2. Welcome, Dr. Udell Tego.
Thank you.
It's nice meeting you again.
Same here. You're too kind.
Thank you. So we are back again to continue from where we stopped on uterine fibroids.
Yes.
And this episode we'll be looking at part 2, and we'll talk about the treatments of uterine fibroids. So let me, as a lady, I have suspicions. As we mentioned earlier on the symptoms, I suspect that, within the symptoms you mentioned, I suspect that, there are signs of uterine fibroids. Yes. What would I expect for my gynae to go through? And I think that we are talking about the diagnosis here.
Yes.
What would my gynae check for?
So if you have concerns that you may have uterine fibroids, the first thing that I would do when you come to see me is go through a very detailed history.
Okay.
Your menstrual history, the symptoms that you're having, and also your general medical history, which would include, any prior surgeries, any prior pregnancies, your family history, trying to elicit whether or not you have family members who have fibroids, if you have had any history of any menstrual irregularities in the past. The history is in fact the most important of any initial gynecologic evaluation. Thereafter, there would be a physical exam done. So in terms of figuring out hormone, the thyroid is a gland in your neck that's responsible for your metabolism and other bodily functions. If there is an imbalance in the hormones produced from the thyroid, sometimes it can bleeding. If there's infection, it can cause some of the other symptoms. And so it may seem like, a woman has fibroids. To control the bleeding. Family planning is not just for birth control or controlling the number of pregnancies or preventing pregnancies. It also can be used to help regulate and lessen the flow of the menses. It also can decrease the pain associated with the menses. So when you have fibroids present, If they are small, they're not causing too much in the way of pain, etc., there's not a need for pregnancy.
Yeah.
Some women need to be pregnant right now. That's why I said need.
That is true.
But if they're okay with deferring fertility for the time being, sometimes you can use medications like contraceptives, etc., just to control the heavy menstrual flow being caused by the fibroids. And sometimes that's all you need. Now, if a woman does want to conceive, or let's say there are many fibroids, or the fibroids are very large, or if the bleeding is so heavy to the point where it's causing anemia. Anemia is a decrease in a woman's blood count, sometimes to the point where it can cause symptoms like lightheadedness, dizziness, heart palpitations, which means that your heart is beating faster because you have less blood in your system. It can be quite dangerous depending on how low the blood count goes. So in those cases, that's where you start to consider maybe some medication treatment or hormonal treatment, and then the next step, which would be surgical removal. So for women who want to conceive or maintain their fertility, or just don't want to part with their uterus, which we'll talk about later, in that case, that's when you consider surgical removal of the fibroids. Okay, surgical removal of the fibroids could be just taking the fibroids out and leaving the uterus in place. Obviously, if a woman wants to conceive, we would do that first. Also, if a woman is done with childbearing and they're maybe of older age, maybe getting closer to menopause, and they want to have the fibroids removed, in that case, there's really no need to conserve the uterus just because they're not going to be conceiving anymore. So in that case, you can choose what's called hysterectomy, where you remove the entire uterus and thereby all the fibroids at the same time. So, there are other treatments. Women also frequently ask me, is there anything that can make them shrink and go away altogether? There are means to shrink the fibroids. It's uncommon, though, that they will disappear completely. Frequently, in fact, when a woman chooses surgery for fibroids, many times you may need to do a hormonal treatment. Again, if there is anemia and the blood count's low, you don't want to go into surgery with a low blood count. It just increases the risk of surgery and it makes the recovery less optimal, okay? So in that case, sometimes you need to give hormonal medication to stop the menstrual flow so they're no longer losing blood and allow the blood count to build back up to normal. And then thereafter you would do the surgery. So sometimes it's a combination of treatments that you will need to do based on the woman's condition. In terms of shrinkage, those medications you would give for about 3 months, and it does help the fibroids to shrink down to a certain extent. Not 100%, but maybe about 30 to 35%. Exactly. And when you do that, there are a couple of benefits in terms of surgery. It usually makes the surgery an easier procedure. Like you mentioned earlier, I do minimally invasive surgery where instead of trying to do a big cut on the abdomen, like a CS or C-section cut to get the fibroids out, we try and use smaller incisions to get the fibroids out. So when you pre-treat, when you pre-treat with those hormonal medications, it usually makes it more likely that a minimally invasive approach will be successful and that an open surgery may not be necessary. It's not always possible for all women, but in certain cases, it is possible to do that, okay? There are other medications or other treatments, I should say, and don't involve actually removing them. And sometimes even just shrinking them is enough to allow the woman to have relief from the symptoms, the heavy bleeding, the pain, the pressure. One of those treatments is called uterine fibroid embolization, or UFE, also called uterine artery embolization. UFE is easier to remember. And that is actually a procedure. It's not done by a gynecologist. It's actually done by a specially trained radiologist, the doctors that do the x-rays, scans, and all of that. And what happens is they will identify the major blood vessels, which are the uterine arteries, which is why it's also called uterine artery embolization. The main blood vessels that feed the uterus and therefore the fibroids. they will the blood supply and thereby the main food source, so to speak. When you block that, then they start to shrink. And even if they don't disappear, even if you get 30 to 50% shrinkage, that's usually enough to control the symptoms.
At least it won't expand.
Exactly. Now that usually has good effect for about 5 to 10 years. And also it is something that can help the women to avoid surgery. However, it's not recommended for women who still want to conceive. Exactly.
Okay. We'll go for our Tipsy One session.
Sure.
We'll go back. Stay tuned for Tipsy One. We'll be right back.
Hello there, welcome to Tips in One segment on Ladies Digest. Today we are talking about 80% of African American women and 70% of Caucasian, Hispanic and Asian women develop uterine fibroids by the time they are 50. Doctors don't really know the cause of uterine fibroid, but research and clinical point out genetic changes, hormones, extracellular matrix and other growth factors as major causes. Symptoms include heavy menstrual bleeding, menstrual periods lasting more than 1 week, frequent urination, constipation, back pain, and leg pain. Seek medical attention immediately you notice any of these symptoms. Preventing uterine fibroids may not be possible, but it's only a small percentage of these tumors require treatment. But by making healthy lifestyle choices such as maintaining a normal weight and eating fruits and vegetables, you may be able to decrease your fibroid risk. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Welcome back, and if you just tuned in, this is still Ladies Digest, and you can always drop your comments and your questions on our social media handles on Facebook and YouTube at the Association of African Universities and our Instagram page at Ladies Digest. And we are still discussing uterine fibroid, and this is the part 2. Thank you, Doc, for sticking with us.
Sure.
And you talked about we just discussed the treatments of forms of treatments of uterine fibroids. So, for instance, as always, we have been diagnosed. Can I just tell my doctor? For today, I come to my gynae and I know I have the uterine fibroid. Can I just tell my doctor that, okay, doctor, tomorrow I'm ready for you to, if it's maybe, let's say it's the surgical one.
You can tell me whatever you want.
Okay, it's my own.
You can tell me whatever you want. But in general, we always want to prepare. Okay. Surgery is never a light undertaking. Okay. You know, any surgery is a major undertaking because it's anesthesia, medications that you will be getting that alter your blood pressure and your heart function, and also you're having cuts made on your body. And so it's important to make sure that we do some preliminary evaluation to make sure that it is safe for you to undergo surgery, and that as much as possible all of the conditions are as optimized as possible. You know, there are some women, you know, again, fibroids affect women in their reproductive ages, so that's all the way from the teens to early 20s, all the way up through menopause. As we women age, men as well, it's more common for us to have other medical conditions. So sometimes hypertension, diabetes, you know, other conditions, even thyroid conditions, things that we need to make sure are well controlled before we go into surgery. So although most women are like, okay, doc, I have fibroids, I want them out yesterday. I usually say, okay, you know, it's usually any pre-existing medical conditions are well controlled. So let's say a woman does have high blood pressure or diabetes or any other condition, but I see that she's on medications, blood pressure is well controlled, or, you know, her blood sugars are well controlled, then in that case, usually within the next 1 to 2 weeks, we can go ahead and schedule. Okay. However, for the younger women who may not have any pre-existing medical conditions, but let's say if the main symptom from the fibroids is heavy bleeding, I need to make sure her blood count is well controlled, or her blood count is at a normal range, I should say. Obviously, when you have surgery, you're going to have incisions made. It's not uncommon that you'll have some blood loss, especially when you're coming with fibroids and you're going to have surgery for it. Sometimes there can be a lot of blood loss because, like I said, fibroids cause new blood vessels to grow around themselves. So if I do see evidence of anemia, I may say, you know, it's better if we build your blood count back up to normal. So we go into surgery with a good blood count. So even if you lose some blood, it won't affect you as much in terms of causing severe anemia. Okay, severe anemia is not good going into surgery. So we may need to do that. Additionally, there are other people involved in doing the surgery, not just me. So there's the anesthesiologist, the nurses, etc. And I work with other specialists as well, and so we all share our theater. So we want to make sure that we time the procedure in such a way that the anesthesiologist also has a chance to review the woman's medical history and make sure there's nothing else that needs to be done. If there are any other testing, and there frequently are other tests, blood work that we need to check in preparation for surgery, we usually do that ahead of time. And then we also make sure we set the schedule such that it doesn't conflict with other people. So sometimes people wonder why they can't get their surgery tomorrow. We plan everything, and it's all in efforts to make sure that the procedure is done as safely as possible for the woman to have a good outcome and good recovery.
Well, just a quick one. Is it safe for pregnancy to be side by side, or fibroids, the uterine fibroids to be side by side with pregnancy? Yes,
it's very common, in fact. So that's the reason why I said it is not always the case that fibroids can cause infertility. There are many women, in fact, who have fibroids and conceive and deliver without difficulty. And so in those cases, it's usually the case that maybe they have some few fibroids, they're small, and we don't worry about them at all. There are also some cases where sometimes there are large fibroids, but the woman still conceives. We don't do anything with the pregnancy, we just watch and see what happens. However, we do know that the larger the fibroids are when a woman conceives, the more likely there may be pregnancy complications. So sometimes, like I said, if there are fibroids within the muscle wall of the uterus and they're large, it could be the case that because they are also expanding the uterus, it's kind of taking the space that the baby needs to grow. And so it could be the case that there could be increased risk of miscarriage, there could be incidence of preterm labor. Term is when the woman goes a full 9 months or 10 months, as we doctors like to. So but in general, 9 months is a full term. But prior to that, so prior to there can be an increased risk of that, the larger the fibroids are if a woman conceives with fibroids in place. Additionally, even if there's not preterm labor or miscarriage, as the baby grows, because pregnancy is a high hormone situation, you have elevated female hormones in order to support the growth of the pregnancy. Those same elevated hormones also stimulate the fibroids to grow. Because like I said previously, fibroids grow in response to our female hormones. And so it may be the case that, okay, the baby's growing, the fibroids are also growing, but the blood supply to the fibroids only remains on the surface of the fibroid. So if my hand's a fibroid, the blood vessels are only on the outside. They don't go to the inside. So the larger the fibroids get, the cells on the inside of the fibroid don't have blood supply anymore, so they start to die. They don't shrink. They start to die inside. And what that means. And so I have seen cases, now I don't deliver babies anymore, but previously when I did, I have seen cases where women will come into the emergency unit and they have so much pain from their fibroids because they are starting to die inside because they've enlarged to the point where the inside doesn't have an adequate blood or oxygen supply. And so we really have some considerable difficulty in terms of trying to give pain medications to control the pain. And bear in mind, because of the pregnancy, we have to be cautious about what pain medicines we give, what's the amount that we give, so it's not something that's going to be harmful to the baby. And so these are some of the things that can occur when a woman gets pregnant with fibroids. However, there are cases where sometimes women get pregnant with fibroids and they don't cause any problems at all. It really depends on the size, the number, the location of the fibroids.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For, as I always say, for squeezing time to always give us part of your knowledge, share your knowledge.
No, this is very important. All women should have this knowledge, which is why we have these discussions. At least it can empower women to go to their doctor and ask questions. Every woman should be encouraged to ask questions and have an answer as to what's going on with their body.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey viewers, this has been Ladies Digest and I've been your host, Joan Ikuya Iyoha. You can catch up on our social media handles at the Association of African Universities Facebook and YouTube pages. Many thanks to my production team for making the show a success. Bye.
The Association of African Universities, AAU, is an international non-governmental organization set up by universities in Africa to promote cooperation among themselves and the international academic community.
Mon nom est professeur Étienne Ehouan-Eilé. Je suis le secrétaire général de l'Association des universités africaines qui est basée à Accra, au Ghana. Je vais vous parler de la création de l'Association des universités africaines. Il faut remonter dans les années 60 pour pouvoir comprendre le processus. Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement.
I am Notumo Dlamini, the Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is a network of 400 universities in Africa. The biggest value that the universities benefit from being members of the association is this big platform that allows them to collaborate, allows them to work together, allows them to teach together. Through this platform, a university in North Africa can work with a university in Southern Africa, and also those in East Africa can work with those in West Africa.
Founded November 1967 at a conference in Rabat, Morocco, by heads of African higher education institutions, the association is currently headquartered in Accra, Ghana.
My name is Maxwell Amo-Hoyt. I'm the Director of Finance of the Association of African Universities. The association sustains itself from contributions from member universities and also from other development partners. Some of our development partners include the World Bank, other governmental agencies like the Swedish International Development Agency, UK Department for International Development, and other partners. We also receive a lot of support from other governments, especially the government of Ghana. Other partners include the African Union, which is more or less the parent organization of the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities hosts the Secretariat for the African Union's Continental Education Strategy. And by so doing, we provide coordinating roles for the African Union in helping members achieve their targets.
Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement. Et rappelons-nous que les années 60, la décade 60, des pays africains ont obtenu leur indépendance ou ont, disons, pris les dispositions pour être indépendants. C'était donc aussi l'année de développement, dans la mesure où tous ces pays indépendants devaient se retrouver de temps en temps pour parler de comment mettre ensemble leurs problèmes et trouver une solution commune à leurs problèmes. Et dans ce contexte-là, l'éducation était une priorité pour eux, surtout l'éducation universitaire. Grâce à l'UNESCO, qui a parrainé plusieurs réunions depuis Madagascar jusqu'au Maroc.
My name is Jonathan Umba. I'm the Director of Research and Academic Planning. The programs and projects that we run at AAU are consistent with our strategic plan, and they are implemented for our higher education stakeholders, namely the higher education institutions in Africa. These programs are implemented in such a way that our stakeholders will get the benefit of membership of our association. And our programs also are aligned with a number of global and international agendas on higher education, including the Continental Education Strategy for Africa and the Agenda 2063. So these programs are aligned with a number of international agendas with a view to promoting higher education.
For consultation, exchange of information, and cooperation among universities in Africa.
I am Professor Nkosi Mahao, Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho in the Kingdom of Lesotho in Southern Africa. There are roughly 77 universities that are affiliated with the AAU in the region. But as you might be aware, there are a lot more universities that are as yet to take the membership of the Association of African Universities. Well, universities that are not members of the AAU are missing quite a lot. First of all, let's appreciate this one point, that the AAU is a main driver from the angle of training and capacitating T63. So if an institution is not on board, it is missing the opportunity to leverage on the opportunities that are provided by the association in the area of training, human resource capital opportunities that are provided by the universalization of quality management on higher education on the continent. And many other opportunities that are provided.
Et en 1963, il y a eu une réunion à Khartoum, au Soudan, où les chefs des institutions d'enseignement supérieur ont décidé de créer l'Association des universités africaines. Finalement, la création va se faire à une conférence qui s'est tenue à Rabat au Maroc, et la création de l'Association des universités africaines a eu lieu le 12 novembre 1967.
I'm Prof. Hassan Kafi, AAU Governing Board member, representing for East African region. Also, I am the president of Plasma University, Mogadishu, Somalia. We really like to give in East Africa, those which are not members. It represents the voice of higher education in Africa being seen all over the world.
So this is our pedal journey. This is a sociology, social work, anthropology, social policy, social administration group. And we are in a moving train. So that's our pedal journey. And the name of our train is Krabala. Accra. Ilori. No. It's just Accra, Ibadan, and Kampala. Yes, and we are moving from Nairobi into the... So, based on our stories, based on the stories we put together, our group appears to have focused. Our goal was on innovative learning approaches. And from what we have, we used mainly the learner-centered approaches and technology for teaching. We have the role play, and we had very innovative ideas where some of our colleagues used skits, drama in class, got some of the students to buy a concept and dramatize the concept so their colleagues will know, will learn. We also have concept mapping. There was the use of storytelling, using the story of Joseph in the Bible. And because the students could relate it was a blast. The students had all issues about topics that are going to be taught in the semester, and then anytime the topic was being taught, students were able to relate with what was going on in the field. We also had the use of simulation, where one of our colleagues used Monopoly to teach negotiation strategies. We found that very, very interesting and innovative. There was peer assessments. There was experiments where students were sent into the field as part of their lecture in social psychology and conducting field work as many things, including practicing juju or being a fraud in the night, wearing hoods just to see how the public will respond to things. He's able to engage all his students at the same time or at different times, and he knows who is contributing and who is not contributing. So I will talk about, we don't have our train is a chart. So as you can see, our strategies, this is innovation when trains become charts, you know. So our strategies is a double deck train. You know, just that part has the double deck, and that to show that that's the highest point. Our meeting pedal and what we have learned is the highest point. So that is our strength, using the strategies to teach. Then using the strategies, we had some challenges. This included infrastructure. Some of our class sizes, no, that is different. So infrastructure, a teaching approach or a method that we are using. Then we also had technology. You have nice ideas like videos and all that, but you get to class and internet becomes a challenge, or there is power outage, and then that becomes, it's likely to end the class abruptly. We also have large classes that it becomes very difficult to do innovative stuff, especially for our colleagues that teach undergraduate students. They are co-lectures. Sometimes the class sizes are very large, like 1,000. So the students are shared among 4 lecturers teaching the same syllabus. And then because some of our colleagues are pedal trained and they think you just came to entertain and you are going away. And sometimes we have had occasion where somebody had marked a colleague down because he didn't understand the teaching approach. So that is one difficulty we have. And we also think the students are shortchanged because those who come to the pedal trained classes gain more, and then those who go to the other classes, so people that are on this training. We also have so this is on the part of colleague lecturers. On the part of students, they are used to lectures. I come, there are slides, I take notes and I go away. They are not used to the innovation, so the shift is becoming a problem and they are not responding too well. So like the example I cited, where we stimulate them with these different activities. So the response to the new innovation, the shift in teaching is a problem. Students are not responding well, and we have to do something about it. Overcoming some of these challenges we have identified, we realize that planning with multiple approaches. So instead of just planning with a video or planning to show something that hinges on power, I would want to do a video, and I also want to have some debates or role plays in mind, so that when I go and power fails, I can use the other approach. So that's one of the ways. And then linking innovation. So we realize that we have concentrated on teaching, innovation in teaching, but that has not translated into assessment, and that was a challenge for one of our colleagues. So we have told ourselves that as part of overcoming that and lesson learned is to link the innovation in teaching to innovation in assessment. So we are done to this place that we are overloaded, and there are a lot of adult learners amongst us. Most of us are adult learners. The overloading is not helpful, but far above that, we think that some of these things should be
So we still have 2 wonderful academics from the University of Ghana, and we want to interview them. They are going to tell us what their take-homes have been, and also throughout the annual convening. And so, Prof, my name is Kwesi Sam. You tell us your names.
My name is Dr. Alice Boateng.
From the University of Ghana?
From the University of Ghana, Department of Social Work.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Peace Mamletete from the Department of Sociology.
All right, I'm so much happy to be here because we are talking about pedagogical leadership, which is of great importance to us as academics. What has been your greatest aha moment, right from yesterday's opening ceremony, the sessions that went on?
I've learned from this program. In my class, for instance, the aha moment, one of them was when I used concept mapping. And the students could just see the one concept with sub headings or concepts on just one page, and they were so happy with it. Remember, during the exam, they even asked me if we were going to do concept mapping, because that was the aha moment. Just on half a page, they could see everything, the skeleton, and then build it up without writing pages. Yes.
What do you think are some of the competencies that you're able to transfer to them using the concept mapping?
I think one of the competencies would be the fact that within a short time you identify a concept and then you dissect it, and then you have sub-concepts or headings through which you can learn or you can bring out so many ideas within a short time.
So were you here last year?
Yes, I was.
So then you have a lot of experience to share with us.
Oh yes, we've tried to apply a lot of the things we've learned in small classes as well as in large classes, and the experiences have been exciting, especially in the large classes, because you think that you don't have the time or the class is too big, but if you are conscious about what you are doing, you can make an impact. So for example, I had a situation where I've been teaching students about experiments, and it's all about other people's documented experiments, but this was a situation where determine their own approaches and collect data. And I remember some of them decided to create a situation where they put eggs and red cloth and try to create like as though a juju was planted in some lecture hall. And they came out with very interesting findings. The motive was to get students to obtain knowledge for themselves, and not me telling them that this is what experiments are and these are the ethical issues, And the aha thing that came out of that was they did this in some other colleague's lecture room, and my colleague was scared when she saw it. So she came to me and said, "Peace, what did you get your students to come and do in my class?" And I said, "Oh, it came out from PEDAL, and this is just to get the students to do that kind of work." So God gave me the opportunity to speak to somebody else about PEDAL, somebody who's not had the opportunity to be trained. But for this very trip, what I would say is that in as much as I've used several of the methods, I have never really linked it to theory. That is because of this theoretical orientation. That is why I'm using these methods. I've not been able to, I never really linked the two till this morning. So that is new for me, and I find it very interesting.
Yes,
yeah.
And then to take it from there, is the case studies. Within one case study, you could you could view the video and then relate it to theories, and then be able to capture the different groups of students, and then what theoretical perspective goes for each group of students. It's an aha moment.
All right. Indeed it is. So my key issue is that we've all gotten to know the relevance of pedagogical leadership in Africa, but we are using a very small approach. How can we cascade this entire PEDAL, and we try our best to get all universities on board?
Or class, say in a DTAC session, and give them feedback, and so there's a cascading effect. You teach another who teaches another, and before you realize, we all are using the approaches and the philosophies in our teaching.
Model.
233-244-736280.
We'll just give maybe 1 or 2 examples of counterfactuals. This media, whatever it is, positive or negative, this is the voting pattern, positive or negative. If the media didn't do what they did or didn't do it the way they did it, maybe the voting pattern would have been the same. This is it. In absence of the media, would the voting pattern remain the same? So we can now attribute whatever pattern that emerged because of the presence of the media. Those of us in media studies, you know what it means. It's very difficult to prove that the president failed because of certain areas. So we need to do that. So that's why it's very difficult. Research is not an easy thing. So how do we go about it? That's what we'll be doing maybe after this, for the next 4 days. After that, we'll be dealing with this in terms of what can you do. Maybe you may need to combine methods to be able to prove that it's the media that led to the voting patterns. But the important, so things to note about causality. And we're coming nearer to the issues. Yes. Okay, Fatai, please.
I think someone asked this question in the morning. Maybe Jessica or someone about how do we know when to stop? The boundary.
Yes. That's good. So this is a kind of a discussion of cause and effect. And that is also, it helps us, one, to know that research causality is in between them. And that's actually why we're doing research. And that's the simplest way to even contribute to knowledge. Once you start, and I also know, some of you who also, most of us are scholars who are interested in publishing, there is no way you can publish any study today